I heard somebody shout, "Soufriere erupting! Soufriere erupting!"
Started to get things ready. I said, we've got to move.
Many persons around us just ran out of their houses and started running.
By the morning, he had then declared, I don't know if you want to call it, a state of emergency.
And I said, we have to do something. So I got my radio, the station came on, and they made an announcement that the Soufriere was erupting and that people they called fancy should get to the school.
The subject volcanoes came under my portfolio and I had to deal with it. I was in the forefront. Obviously the Prime Minister had the overall superintendence.
My mother put a family plan in place so that we can respond appropriately. For instance, I had to pack clothes for my siblings and my father and mother.
And we had set up headquarters at the police headquarters there.
I was stationed at Central Police Station, but we started mobilizing vehicles, started looking at foodstuff. So, because I mean, we are learned already that they start evacuating people to different out of the danger zone.
Because the police sent out people to tell the others that they must get packed because truck and they were coming to move you.
We evacuated from Fancy right down to, I think, Mount Grennan, and then from Chateaubelair up to Barley. So I don't know if it was about maybe 25,000 persons or families or what it is that were evacuated.
The evacuation that they had, the way they evacuated, it was real in a mess. Nothing set out straight, no plans, evacuation plans set it. Everybody just crammed their own way.
People ran, there were few transportation at that time, and whatever the transport was, people got them and went out of Chateaubelair. Other people went on foot. Some people were organized in the sense that some people went with bags. They got little things from their house, they went with that. Other persons just ran empty-handed and got on a vehicle. They didn't know where they were going.
No, we didn't have any organized shelters as such. And we used the schools, churches,
community centers, and so on. And some people, of course, were in private homes.
So I went back home, I packed some bags, I got my baby, and I came over to the school. When I came, the school was already opened.
So we used the school and then we put the families together, make sure that the families stick together. And then we stayed there about 3 weeks.
At the first shelter, which was in Bowley, life was a little challenging. People who were accustomed to be busy all day were now sitting home, so they became a little frustrated.
It wasn't a very pleasant life for people living in shelters. There were people who were living amongst you didn't know.
Well, it wasn't so nice. Some of the people was nice people to live with. Some of them, when they're going to the toilet to stool, they will just stool on the concrete. It was messy.
People were a little bit edgy because they had to separate the males from the females. Families were not together.
Well, some was really pleased, happy, and some wasn't comfortable. Because if you're a family person, you can't be comfortable in a small room, 6, 7, 8 persons.
What they wanted to do with their families, they couldn't do. They lost their privacy, and so that created a little uneasiness. However, people were still complying to the rules of the shelter. My second experience at this shelter, the deanery, was a little bit different. The shelter was smaller, people were more of community spirited, and we were better able to manage that smaller group.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months we stayed at Richland Park, but my father stayed about a week down at Canaan.
My family was in shelter for about 4 months, and then they moved back home. We moved back home, I should say. And then we settled in and started making life work again.
When some of the people get back to their respective homes, they got to restart it. some of the animals get destroyed. People steal some of those. So they got to, whatever they meet, they got to rebuild to revive back the economy.
Where we had a lot of, well, not problems, but losses, was that because people were leaving, they were advised to lose their animals. And those animals did tremendous damage, like to the crops. The loss to agriculture was fairly substantial.
When we came back, you had to practically start all over again. You had to get your houses cleaned. Some galvanized were a bit damaged, windows and so on. And as for the animals, people would have come in and taken some. And then the government came in, they brought in some animals. They let out some goats and fowls and sheep, and people were able to kind of start life over.
So we returned back home to civilization, so to speak. It was a different way of life.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a different way of life. I mean, I must say it was good times, because we find, I mean, the soil was more fertile during this time, you know. The crops was bearing, you know, everything was just in abundance, you know. And then I think the community had come together during times of emergency. We always come together.